Welcome back to Rocket Talk. 37 episodes down. Here we go. And once again, Corey is with us. So, Connor is fired. Connor is on unpaid administrative leave. No, Connor is still out for these next couple weeks. So Corey is back with us again. So just like last week, she is here to give us another fun nerd take on her stuff as well. So before we jump into it, before we go even to a bev check, I do also want to mention that new intro you just heard as well. It played last week as well. Connor did put it on the editing and let me know about it. So, it was meant to be passive-aggressive in the in the notes. It was more just to say, hey, sorry we didn't mention it because we didn't know. So,
and his not telling us has absolutely nothing to do with the reason why he's not here. Exactly. Absolutely nothing to do with that.
Absolutely nothing.
No, but yeah, so big thanks to Tom Taylor from Tailored Beats, a good buddy of ours, who made that intro and outro for us. Be sure to check out his SoundCloud. Tailored Beats is been able to do this for us. So thanks again, Tom. So now let's go into a bev check. Johhny, before we started recording, you were scarfing down some food, so I know you obviously have a drink. What do you got today, Johhny?
I have my favorite drink from Taco Bell, the Baja Blast. Pretty much everybody's favorite drink from Taco Bell.
Yeah, because I got rid of Kickstart. I'm sad.
Oh.
It's delicious.
What about you, Corey?
We've got coffee with milk and honey.
Ooh. Tasty. What? Just like a regular blend coffee?
It is a White Russian flavored coffee. So that's my White Russian flavor.
Tasty. I have a berry Fanta. I got that on my way of getting dinner on Thursday, so I have a 2-liter of that. It's tasty, nice blue raspberry flavored pop.
Ooh, love
yes.
the berries.
Yes. So now we can jump into nerd news now. First one is Nintendo did drop their final Direct Mini Partner Showcase. So, they've been in this for the last few months of a sort of mini. It's a sort of a Direct where it would be mainly third-party stuff with the occasional collaboration for stuff like Age of Calamity and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's been a lot of things like games that were not first-party exclusive. So we got a handful of things. There wasn't a whole lot that stood out on my end outside of a couple, and I know Johhny only had a couple things that stood out to you. But what are your guys' thoughts on the final showcase for 2020 from Nintendo?
I liked it. I thought it was really good. I think it was overall... I want to say it's the best one that we've had so far, but that's only because it's like the one that got me excited the most. So, obviously, I'm a little biased, but I thought it was good. I wouldn't say that it's the best we've had since the non-mini directs, but it is the best since the non-mini directs, but not as good as the regular directs. But it was a solid one. It's kind of a bummer that we're not going to get any more for the rest of the year, but at least that was confirmed, so I'm not holding out for anything.
True. They could drop that's just the last partner showcase, so they could drop a regular direct at some point soon, but who knows if that's even going to come either. But yeah. Corey, what about you?
I'll have to disagree with Johhny. It's not the best drop that I've seen this year. I actually really was more engaged with some of the indie games that they dropped a couple months ago. But for the most part, this seems pretty straightforward. There's not a lot that I'm really excited for, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it's that just like the last couple, this one's had a bunch of things that I may not care for, but are like big. Like one of the biggest ones is how they're putting how they put No More Heroes 1 and 2 as ports on the Switch since No More Heroes 3 isn't coming out until next year. So stuff like that was big news, and the announcement of Bravely Default 2 being delayed to 2021. But I wasn't ever going to play those games. The biggest that I was, I think, the most excited for was Control and Hitman 3 being released as cloud versions. So in Japan, they've already done this with Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Resident Evil 7, but you're able to stream a version of those games. So you have to be connected online, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having a Switch. But for someone who, like Johhny right now, Johhny has a Switch. He doesn't have a high enough PC that he can play most games, doesn't have a PlayStation or an Xbox. So this gives Johhny the way to play Control, which was a lot of people's game of the years last year. A chance to play that on the Switch. He'd have to play it with good internet connection, so maybe not right now he can't play it, but it is one that if he wanted to get it instead of getting it on PS5, he could. So I think that's good about this is it opens the door for more big name games, because that is when there are some, big name Switch games that aren't on there, or the ports are just like so poor because they're taking high-end PS4 and Xbox One games and trying to put them on the Switch. So I think this can be a nice way to kind of allow more big name games to come onto it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it definitely was a better direct mini than some of the past ones. If it is the best, it had a pretty low bar to hit. But, it was nice that we did get stuff. Even if a lot of the direct mini partner showcase stuff, like only 2 or 3 things out of the 4 or 5 they did really stood out to me. It's still nice that they were able to give us some different things. And so I know one of the biggest ones, though, for Johhny was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, getting the demo as well. So, Johhny, I know you played that. What are your thoughts on the demo as we wait for Age of Calamity to come out in a couple weeks?
I thought it was great. I was really excited about the demo coming out because I've been hyping this game up for a long time. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We got to play as you got to play the first chapter of the game, and then with most demos, whenever you get the full version, the demo data will transfer over to the full game whenever you get the full game. And in this demo, you get to play as Link, Zelda, and Impa. And it was really interesting because it's one of the first times, other than the other Hyrule Warriors game, this is one of the first times you've ever gotten to play as Zelda, and so it's really interesting to get to see how she doesn't do a lot of like hand-to-hand fighting. She does more of the fighting from her Sheikah iPhone, really, but her Sheikah Slate, but it was really cool to see her whoop some zombies' asses monsters' asses, and Impa though is my favorite for sure. I'm a big fan of Sheik from the entire series, and Impa is really fast and quick and moves around the battlefield. She's not very strong, but she zips around really really well, and I really like that. So she's a lot of fun. She's definitely one of the characters I'm looking forward to playing more of. But overall, it's a lot of fun. It's a hack and slash game, so it's you against 1,000, and those 1,000 monsters don't stand a chance because you can just kill everyone really, and it's a lot of fun. It's these kind of games are exactly the kind of games that I imagine my parents think I'm always playing. Like this is like the mindless slaughtering kind of video game that I can imagine my mom and dad growing up were like, yep, that's what all video games are, pretty much, just so
violent. Yeah. How is it compared to the original Hyrule Warriors? Like, obviously with this one being more of a focused on Breath of the Wild instead of just kind of a hodgepodge, like outside of that, like gameplay wise, does it feel the same? Does it feel more refined?
It feels a lot the same to me, but I love that it seems like they put more effort into making things true to the game, to Breath of the Wild, because it is canon. And so a lot of what they did was they had to put a lot of effort into making sure that the story mattered and everything, all the characters were interesting and everything that they did made sense. Because before it was kind of like a vacation. Hyrule Warriors, the original, was kind of like a fan service. It was all like, let's just put everything together in a bag and shake it all up and see what comes out. And it was a lot of fun, like the purest. If you're a Zelda fan from any kind of game, it is the purest form of fan service that Legend of Zelda's ever gotten. But this one is more grounded and more real, and the story is interesting, and it's something that I can really look forward to for the series as a whole, because it matters. What happens in this game absolutely has consequences, and in the sense where Hyrule Warriors the original did not. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It was definitely, the feel was similar as far as the gameplay went, but the story wise, it was more intense and it was more real, and I loved that.
Nice. Awesome. So that comes out on November 20th. So the episode after that comes out, or the week after that, depends on how much time Johhny wants to play with it, we will have a blast off or blow up with that one. So be on the lookout for that in a few weeks. And let's move on into our next Nerd News Now topic. The Xbox Series X fridge is real, and Microsoft is giving one away. So the Xbox Series X, like, it looks like a fridge. Like that's been It's been a pretty funny meme ever since it was officially revealed back in December. And so Microsoft had a little bit of fun with it. They sent Snoop Dogg and some other celebrities and influencers a real size Xbox fridge. And so now they're going to do that as well. They're going to be giving away a real working fridge that looks like a Series X, even including having like a fake disc tray and the light and all that. So this is definitely more of a goofy one, not as much of a serious deep topic. But what are your guys' thoughts on this one? I went and retweeted because I want to win this, obviously.
I think this is really cute. So when I originally saw this, I thought it was going to be the same size as the gaming console, which I'm like, oh, that's going to fit a soda can. But now I see it next to the console. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense.
It's a full-size fridge.
Yeah.
Do you know how much Mountain Dew you can store in that?
I should probably retweet that because I have a very small fridge.
Yeah, on the video they have of it, like when it opens up, you see there's like a bunch of Monster and there's some sweets and all that. Like there's an actual Xbox in there too, which is funny. But yeah, it definitely is a goofy thing. Well done on Microsoft's end, because like the Series X, like they're having fun with it, because like this little console is so powerful, but it looks, since it's like a rectangle, it looks like a fridge. And so definitely a fun one. Johhny, are you going to also join in on the retweeting brigade to try to win this?
I might as well. I mean, I have the dream of having a game room in a house someday. So if I get this, then it'd be perfect for like storing all of my Monster and Mountain Dew.
True. So. It's too bad you didn't like the Sonic G Fuel, because you could just load it with G Fuel cans as well. But
True.
Oh well. Yeah, definitely more of a goofy fun one. So be sure to go on. Xbox has a tweet pinned to it. If you follow Xbox and retweet by the 4th of November, you have a chance to win it. They have a link to all the rules too and all that as well. But every retweet with the SXX fridge sweepstakes in the quote tweet are entered a chance to win. So best of luck. Hopefully you guys can win as well. And maybe one of us can come away with one. So we can move on into the next one then. Batwoman revealed the new suit for the TV show. So we talked about it a little bit earlier this year. Ruby Rose is leaving Batwoman as the main actress. And so, Johhny, how do you say this lady's name?
I don't know if it's Javisha or I'm not really
Miss
sure.
Leslie has been cast as the new Batwoman. And so what's cool about this is, instead of them just like replacing her, like replacing Ruby Rose with a different actress, and it's just like they're gonna act like nothing happened, kind of like Rhodey in Iron Man, they are making she's a whole new character. So she's Ryan Wilder, and so they showed off the first look at her in her new suit. I mean, it looks like most other Batman and Batwoman suits, but what is also cool about it is she's gonna wear Kate Kane, who's Ruby Rose's character, old bat suit at the start of season 2, but then as the season goes on and she starts to become the role, her suit will get redesigned to one that fits more of her style then. So I think this was a good way to shake it up with the show, and because replacing Ruby Rose and then have a new actress and then have it still be the same character would be kind of weird. But it'll be cool to see how they make this work then. So, I mean, besides the fact that it does look like a Batman costume, like, what are your guys' thoughts then on her suit?
I think it's great. I am really excited for it, and seeing her in the pictures makes me more excited. And I love that they're making this series with Ruby Rose starring in it. It was the first gay or first lesbian character that was in the lead role for the Arrowverse, and so I really appreciate it. But now that they're doing that again with another lesbian character that's black, it's great. I'm loving seeing more actors and actresses of color that are being able to play lead roles like this, and even more so that they're an actress of color that's also LGBT is fantastic. So seeing her in the suit gets me more excited. And I don't know, I've never heard of her, Miss Leslie before, but I am very excited to see what Ryan Wilder is all about. So
Yeah, for sure. I know she was a minor character, or I don't know, maybe I know she was in that CBS show God Friended Me. Like she was like she wasn't the main girl that works with the guy, but she was like someone else that was like on the show a lot. But that's really all I like knew that she was from. Besides that, though, so
Yeah. Aesthetically, looking at the costume, I love it. So I love red and black as a combination in general. But I'm looking specifically at the cape. So the picture that I'm looking at, it has it kind of fading from black into a bright red at the very end. And it just looks so nice. And then when you compare it to, she essentially has that same concept in her hair. I
yeah, with her.
I I love that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely it's cool. The incorporation of red is going to be good, and like Johnny mentioned too, we didn't mention that the fact that it is a person of color is going to come a long way. You know, it as someone who doesn't really watch any of the Arrowverse shows, like it's cool though to see this, and you know, so Johnny will have another hopefully good character to watch on his shows. But you know, yeah, sure, like the suit we've seen a similar design before, but it's still like the Batman and Batwoman suit is just so iconic because of like how it is. It's a simple this is a simple form fitting black and red suit and it looks good. So we'll definitely have to keep our eyes out for that. Johnny, you'll have to give your thoughts on her portrayal as Batwoman once the new season comes out as well. So the next one we have for a topic of for Nerd News Now topic is Assassin's Creed Netflix collaboration. So we are getting a live-action Netflix show as well as multiple other projects being planned coming to Netflix. So Assassin's Creed, the popular video game series, is coming to Netflix with a collaboration between Ubisoft and the streaming platform Giant. So these other projects may also include the Assassin's Creed anime series that has been long in development, and so we're gonna see a pretty iconic video game series over the past decade make its way onto the screens, streaming TV wise. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this new show?
I think this has so much potential. So, I'll be honest, I've never played Assassin's Creed, but a lot of my friends have, and I've watched them play it. And I think this has a really great concept to be an anthology series. So, kind of like American Horror Story, where everything's in a completely different setting, but perhaps reusing characters or actors. I think this has a lot of potential to do something along the same lines. And Assassin's Creed isn't the only one that they're potentially looking at making into a TV show or a movie. So they have a few others that they're kind of looking at. They haven't really disclosed, but they are saying that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea what they can do, because that is a thing that goes on with the Assassin's Creed games is that there's so many different settings that they take place. So you are getting so many different characters because you know the original game is taking place right around the Third Crusade and in different like Holy Lands, and where Assassin's Creed 3 is during the American Revolution, and Valhalla, the one that's coming out in a couple weeks, takes place in 873, and so it's a Viking invasion. So you play as a huge variety of different assassins throughout the entire game. So it's going to be cool to see if they do decide to do that and incorporate some of the elements from the games of different settings for each season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know that when Netflix does stuff, it's more often than not they get it right. But I don't want to, even though the Legend of like the Avatar show isn't, The Last Airbender isn't out yet. I'm still, with all the stuff that's happened with that, I'm worried that they can miss the mark with Assassin's Creed. Again, I'm not gonna judge Avatar or Assassin's Creed too early, but I do kind of put them in the same boat a little bit because they're both series that people are really fond of, and if they removed the original creators of Avatar, I'm worried if something could happen similar to Assassin's Creed and they could ruin this as well. They did a really good job with The Witcher, and that brought in fans of The Witcher and non-fans alike into the show. I was not a fan, but I am a fan of the show. So I'm hoping that they're able to do the same thing with Assassin's Creed, but I'm I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna get. So we will see.
Nice, yeah. So hopefully this does do better than the movie. There was the Assassin's Creed movie a few years ago with Michael Fassbender that did not do well critically. One of the biggest ones was it mainly just people felt like it was a CGI fueled, joyless, overplotted slog fest. So even though it was at the time it was considered one of the best video game movies ever made because Sonic wasn't out yet,
Or Detective Pikachu.
or Detective Pikachu, yeah. So like, and because I remember this was always the one I thought was going to be the one that finally gave us a good one, and then it didn't. So hopefully Netflix can do better than what Fox did. So we'll have to wait and see with that and figure out. Hopefully Netflix figures out what they want to do. So. We have a couple more to get to. One of our next ones is Sony is aiming to buy Crunchyroll for almost $1 billion. So the anime streaming service Crunchyroll, it's been hugely popular. There's 70 million free members. There's about 3 million paying subscribers, and so Sony is looking to acquire the streaming service. There was a funny joke I saw about this that I wanted to bring up. So. We mentioned a couple weeks ago when Xbox bought Bethesda, so people were like, oh, well, Sony went out and bought Crunchyroll so they could own anime after the thought of Skyrim potentially being an Xbox exclusive. So there was some funny jokes like that. But Corey, as the anime fan, what are your thoughts then on this potential merger happening?
I actually think it's kind of dangerous because Sony already owns Funimation, which is one of the most prominent anime streaming services out there. So this is either going to really push for Netflix and Hulu to really grab some new animes along with Amazon Prime. Though I guess Hulu wouldn't really count since they have a partnership with Funimation, so you can watch a lot of Funimation stuff on Hulu. But this feels very, very close to a monopoly for my taste. But hopefully this just means we'll see like Netflix really striving to get more anime on there because their selection right now is very limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I didn't even think about that. Just like because I forgot that they own Funimation because that is huge. That knowing that Sony would have basically the rights to most anime distribution in North America, and that's a little dangerous. So
yeah.
So we'll see because maybe the old government would be like, hello, you cannot do this, but who knows? There's been some of these mergers that's happened before, and it's just like, how did this happen?
Also, I think it's funny, since Crunchyroll started as an illegal streaming service.
That is funny.
And now it's being fought for to own and stream.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of like how like Rhapsody and some of those other music streaming services that they try to do that too, and they end up failing. But yeah, it's crazy. This is definitely a big one to keep the eye on because if they do somehow get this could really change the landscape. Johhny, what about you? What are your thoughts on this so far?
I'm not a big anime fan, but what Corey said makes a lot of sense, and so I'm probably going to have to follow your lead on this, that, this could be a monopoly to be, that's concerning. So we'll definitely see what happens, because I don't know. I mean, I've watched pretty much everything that isn't anime under the sun. So if anything bad happens to the availability of watching anime because of this, then that could be bad for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. So this is definitely one to keep the eyes on. I don't, and so especially as Netflix is raising the prices, Sony's trying to be more competitive with this. So if they can do that, then maybe they can steal a chunk away from the streaming services. And then our last one for a Nerd News Now topic is the unfortunate announcement that Sean Connery did die. It was announced actually the day of recording today, Halloween. So I thought we'd give a quick mention to it. A lot of his bigger movies are a little before our time, or since he's mainly known for being the first James Bond. But, he has been in some other big things. The biggest one I would have seen him in was he was Indiana Jones' dad in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And so, definitely another sad death to announce, even though he was he was 90, so like he lived a long life, but definitely a sad thing to come out today.
Yeah.
Yeah, are there any other of his movies you guys have seen outside of maybe Indiana Jones?
Highlander.
Oh yeah, true. That's a good one too. Johnny, what about you?
No, just Indiana Jones. Yeah, I haven't seen much of him really ever. Just like you said, it's kind of the past generation that was a big, when he was really big. So it is really sad because he is iconic. And I did not realize, until this morning when he died, I didn't realize he was 90. So yeah, this is great. That he was great. This isn't great news, but he
Yeah,
was great. And so it's a shame, but he was legendary.
for sure. So, definitely go out and watch one of his many, many, many films that he starred in between the 50s. His last film he was in was he was the narrator for Ever to Excel, which was a documentary, and then Sir Billy. That was his last movie that he acted in, which was a CGI adventure comedy film from 2012, which was known as Guardians of the Highlands here in America. So definitely go out and watch those. And so now we can move on then into a blast off or blow up. Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1, released the day before we recorded this. It was released on Friday the 30th. And oh, what a start to Season 2. So, fair warning, spoilers will be ahead on this one. So if you have not watched The Mandalorian, then be sure to skip ahead. I will put in the description a timestamp of when to go to. But guys, what were your guys' thoughts on this episode? Corey, I know you've never watched The Mandalorian before this, so it is a little different for you. But how did you guys think this episode was?
Johnny, I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I liked it a lot. I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I like some particular movies, but overall, just not that big of a fan. But this being something that I can jump into when season 1 premiered and be on the same level as everybody else, it got me really excited. And so season 2 coming out now, it's one of the only originals that's out right now. Well, it's one of the only series that's out right now that's not like a game show or some kind of docu-series or anything like that.
It's the only scripted show.
Yeah, well, aside from that High School Musical one.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but I don't know how many people are watching that. But as far as The Mandalorian, it's great. Yeah, I really like it. I think that it's got a lot of stuff that I don't like, a lot of Easter eggs and things references that I don't necessarily understand, but I know that they're there and I don't need to understand them. But as far as this first episode, I think it was really great. It was. I wouldn't say it was super action-packed, but it definitely had some good moments in it. I really liked that Timothy Olyphant was in it. He is fantastic in everything that he's in, Luke, including Santa Clarita Diet. And he was good in this. I really liked seeing him work with the main character, whose name... Does he have a name?
Yeah, they gave out his name in the end of season 1.
Okay.
But people just call him Mando or the Mandalorian.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm really glad to see them working together. It seemed like they were kind of on equal ground, and I really appreciated that. I know there was a lot of people that were online that were hoping that he gets a spin-off series based off of this episode, or like because of the episode getting his own spin-off series, and I would totally vouch for that because I think that's a fantastic idea. Overall, I think it was great. It seems like a lot of the episodes are problem of the week episodes. And I'm not really sure if I know there is an overarching story with the child, but I'm not really sure if the season is going to be problem of the week type stuff, or it's going to have more involved.
I mean, that's kind of what season 1 was as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because you had the introduction of him getting the child, like the first couple episodes kind of go hand in hand, but then you like. Episodes like 3 through 7 are like, while they do stuff that sets it up for what happens in episode 8, like a lot of those are his problem of the week, his creature of the week he has to fight, his person that he has to clash with type of thing. And this one was no different with that. But
yeah, I was confused the entire time. So, okay, here's what I did to watch it. So, when you first click on it on Disney Plus, it'll give you like a previously on the last season. I skipped that. I want to give
Oh, you went in
guys.
completely
You of all
blind.
people skipped it. I
Yes,
watched it, and I rewatched the recap.
Well, no, here's the thing. Because when we talked about it, it's just like pure blind reaction,
Yeah.
no context whatsoever. I was so confused. And my first thought was, why are you taking a baby to an illegal fighting ring? That was my first thought.
You don't? What?
I don't mess around with babies. But yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I understand why people like it because it's so well done just from a cinematography
Yeah.
Yeah, from that standpoint. And just all the detail in it, I understand why people like it because it's well done. I probably won't be continuing this mainly again because I am confused.
Well, go back and watch. So there's only 8 episodes before this, and each episode is roughly 40 to 50 minutes. So like it's not a super long show to get through. So you don't have to go and stream all of it right now, but you could go and watch it. One quick note though, the child, the little baby Yoda guy, he is 50 years old. It's Yoda species, so they age a little different than us humans.
He's in a cradle. He's in a floating cradle. He's a baby.
I love when they got into the fight. He was like, "Nope," and he
Yeah,
pushed the button and he hit.
that was in the trailer, and it's so funny because he saw the I can't remember what that weapon's called, but he saw that and he was just like, "Bye bye." But yeah, I am obviously out of the three of us, I am the biggest Star Wars fan, and I loved season 1. The only episode, like most people who enjoyed the show, episode 5 last season, which was the other episode on Tatooine, didn't really like. That was really the only dip that this show has really had, because it ended the second half of that season was just really, really good. Like some of the best TV I've watched in a long time, and I really like this one too, especially because this is one that does bring in a lot of nods and Easter eggs. So the big crate dragon that they fight, that actually is something that was teased in episode 4. There's a crate dragon skeleton that's just like on the sand dunes that C-3PO walks by. So the fact that they pulled something like that, like something so minor that like people would overlook, is awesome. And then there's a couple other little fun Easter eggs they threw in there, like the like how Timothy Oliphant's speeder uses a piece of Anakin's pod racer. So like just like little things like that, and like them expand on the Tusken Raiders was a big thing I really liked. But the best was obviously all the Boba Fett stuff. So the outfit that Timothy Oliphant is wearing, it was Boba Fett's, which Boba Fett fell in the Sarlacc pit in episode 6. But that teaser at the end, that heavily scarred old man that was watching from afar, is most likely Boba. I think it's Boba Fett. I don't know if they've confirmed it for sure, but because Boba Fett is the clone son of Jango Fett, and it's the same actor who was Jango in episode 2, so it's either Boba or a clone, but it's probably Boba Fett. So the fact that they're bringing Boba Fett back, who's like such a beloved character, just had me so excited. I visibly gasped when they showed him at the end of that episode. So it is definitely, for me, it is for sure a blast off. For me, I am very excited for the next episode to come out on Friday already, and I love this show. I'm someone who I love. Like I am one of the more positive side on the Disney Star Wars stuff. I know that's been kind of a debate where a lot of people don't really like what Disney's done. I like most of the things they've done movie wise. I didn't like episode 9 as much, but I love episode 8. I think 7's solid. Rogue One and Solo are both great movies. And so, but like this is by far my favorite thing that they've done.
I would also call it a blast off. It's lighter of a blast off than Luke's, but that's just because I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. But I am going to watch all the other episodes, and we'll probably do another blast off or blow up for the final episode of the season. We can, or maybe the whole season as an entirety. But for this one, yeah, definitely a blast off, and I'm also gonna look forward to the others coming up.
It's a blast off for me, but I'm not on the ship.
Fair enough.
Hey, that's
You're
a good one.
sending
Yeah.
it away.
Watching it from the launch site.
Yeah, I'll give it a wave as it goes.
There we go. Yeah, it's great. Well, I think what's helping this succeed so well too is that they have a plan. That's the biggest issue I have with the sequel trilogy is that they're just like, let's just make these movies. Like they, did they know that they were going to fight a crate dragon at the start of season 2 when they wrote the first couple scripts for season 1? Probably not, but they knew what they were building towards. Where the sequel trilogy was like, sure, let's do this and let's do that. So. Very, very fun. So now we can move on into the topic of the week. So that'll be a fun one with this one this week. So like in the summer, right before Johhny and I's birthdays, we did our nerd backgrounds. And so Corey's been our guest these last couple weeks, and she is having her birthday come up in a couple weeks as well. So we thought we can do the same thing, and we can go over her nerd background as her birthday is approaching. So first off, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, because how far is it from today, the day of recording?
11 or 12. I'm not quite sure if you want to start it at like November 1st, because I'm a November 11th baby. I'm a November 11th.
I knew that because we're friends. We've been friends for years. Of course, I know that.
Perfect. Yeah. So her birthday will be a week after this episode goes live. So
yes.
Be sure, as we will plug later, her social medias. Be sure to go. Tweet at her or a happy birthday and all that as well. But so yeah, we're kind of the same thing we did with Johhny and I. So just kind of going over your nerdy background. So the first broad question is, what are the different things that you're into that are considered nerdy?
Probably the biggest one, obviously anime. I'm also really into young adult novels. So a lot like Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Hunger Games. Those are some really big ones for me. And Disney. I really like animated Disney films because I'm a child at heart. And online comics.
Okay.
So like webtoons.
I know you've told me a bunch about how you love Percy Jackson. I gotta ask a few questions about it. How old were you when you first got into that realm of Percy Jackson? Who was it that got you into it? And what is it about it that makes it so important to you?
Okay, so I was about 11 or 12 years old, so about the same age Percy was in the first book. And my mom at the time was a English teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I was reading at the same reading level as her students. So she was like, I'll just use my child as a guinea pig to see if my students will like these books. So it started off as a bedtime story. My mom read me the first chapter. That night I was like, can we read more? She read up to chapter 3. And then the next morning I woke up early, snuck into her room, stole the book, and kept reading. And I think one of the big things that just made Percy Jackson so important to me was Percy was the first character that I was ever able to really relate to. So during that time, I did not know my dad at all. And neither did Percy, because Percy's dad's a god. Mine works at a factory. And so there was that aspect, the fact that we both have ADHD and just struggle to fit in socially with our peers. And then on top of that, my mom was dating someone very much like one of the first antagonists that we see in Percy Jackson, Smelly Gabe. And so, so that all just really hit home for me. And I was just hooked. It became one of my first hyperfixations as a child.
Love it.
So I gotta ask then, what are your thoughts on the movies?
What movies? I don't recognize any movies.
Yeah, one of my best friends in high school, he was the same way. He loved the books, and yeah, same thing. He does not acknowledge the movies like most people don't. We are getting that Disney Plus series, so maybe they can make right.
Fun fact, the first Percy Jackson movie was my first date ever.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
Did you guys hold hands?
We did. We held hands. We had matching shirts because Hot Topic was selling Camp Half-Blood t-shirts. They're terrible design. But we had matching shirts, and we wore those, and we went to go see the movie, and then we left enraged.
Yeah, I can see that. So going to one of the other big nerdy ones, Disney. What is your favorite Disney movie then?
Brother Bear, from
Aw.
what I would consider Disney's like dark ages, where they were
Yeah,
experimenting more.
yeah, those mid 2000s is definitely one that kind of gets forgotten about because after like Mulan and Hercules, yeah, people don't really like view those at the same level because they had that really big renaissance in the late 80s, early 90s with Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin. But yeah, there's some great movies. My personal favorite is Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, that's a great one. I watched that again recently, and did you know Yzma's supposed to have a song in that?
Yes.
I just learned that.
Snuff Out the Light, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a bop.
It is. It's very good.
Her like planning how she should do it is one of my favorite like scenes in any Disney movie. Just because the delivery and then or to save on postage, I'll just poison him with this. Like just like how brilliantly written that whole thing is. That movie is just so much fun.
Her and Kronk are like the perfect duo because they're both their own brand of comedy, but like they're unique, but they just work so well together.
Oh man, another funny one of that movie is when she's talking and Kuzco's looking, he notices like the leaf lettuce or whatever in her teeth. She's just saying like blah blah blah. Like they had the actress just say blah 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 blah. And so next time you watch that, listen for that because it is pretty funny.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Brother Bear is fantastic, and if anybody listening has ever watched it and they've never cried, then
they don't have a soul.
No.
Yeah, you have no soul.
I cannot watch that dry-eyed. Like, you go in wanting a good cry.
Yeah.
That's like me with Marley and Me. If I know I want to have a nice ball session, I'll just go watch that and then cry a lot. Especially because I had 2 yellow labs growing up, so that movie extra hurts.
Oof.
But, is there any nerd medium that you never really gotten into but always wanted to? Like, say you mentioned comics, but like you were wanting to get into comics, but it never really stuck, or you were wanting to get into a certain genre or something, and you just never really got for you.
There are actually quite a few. So, I'm on TikTok a lot, and there's a lot of discourse about like the top 3 animes ever, and One Piece is always brought up. And when it got put on Netflix, it's the entire everything that's out. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch it. I couldn't get through the first episode, and I felt really bad because I was like, this is supposed to be such a great show. Everyone loves this show. I cannot stand this show. And maybe I didn't give it a fair trial because I didn't even finish the first episode. But there's just something about the voice for Luffy that sets my skin on fire. I hate it. And like Star Wars, I tried watching Star Wars, and it's just something I can't get into. And I think it might be a generational gap since my mom and my uncle, they hyped it up so much. They're like, it's our childhood. You need to watch it. You need to watch it. I was like, Harrison Ford is an asshole in this film.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I was like, Luke is whiny. Princess Leia is okay, but still not quite sure how I feel about her.
Well, here's a crazy one, just to show how much better we've come in filming. There's a YouTube video you can find where it is anytime a female in the original trilogy that isn't Princess Leia talks, and the whole video for all 3 movies is roughly a minute and a half, and about half of it comes from one scene from Mon Mothma talking. It's like the fact that there's like I want to say outside of Leia, there's like 4 females that talk in the entire original trilogy.
5 girls in the universe of Star Wars, and it's like I don't know. There's so few women in the whole universe, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
Wait, women are real?
They don't pass the Bechdel test. That is for sure. Yeah, I can see that. I have some other. I mean, Johnny's another one that he's not really super into Star Wars. Yeah. I saw it at a young age and was hooked ever since. But teach their own. And then what? How about a movie or a show you never get sick of, that you can, like, one of your favorites?
Okay, so it's actually a musical, and that's Heathers the musical. Johnny's had to hear me talk about this all the time.
Yep.
But it's based off the 1989 film starring Christian Slater and Winona Ryder. And it's basically the blueprint for Mean Girls. with Lindsay Lohan and
Okay.
all that. But instead of it just being petty girl drama, there's murder, suicide, depression, and an abusive relationship. So it's got everything a girl could want, I guess. But it has these amazing songs. And normally, so there's a English version of Broadway called West End. And normally I'm kind of about West End just because I'm always about the original recording. But they replaced one of the songs called Blue. They replaced it with a song called I Say No, which is kind of a nod to the beginning of the Just Say No campaign, started in the 80s. And it's so well done, and the vocal dynamics in it are just amazing. So I could watch that musical all day long. I could listen to it all day, every day, not get sick of it.
Nice. I have another one for you. So you mentioning One Piece reminded me. It sometimes when you mention one thing, then I like go down a rabbit hole and think of a different couple things. So mentioning One Piece reminded me of 4Kids, which reminded me of Sonic X, which reminded me of how much I dislike the way 4Kids has gone, and they went and edited some of these animes and cartoons over for America. Is there anything that like seeing a certain name like that's associated with like a nerdy genre, like myself with 4Kids, it just like makes your blood boil? Because that easy is one for me.
I don't think I really have anything that just makes my blood boil. Because I'm pretty open, and for me, like anime and all that, I just stream it from Funimation or Netflix. So it's not like 4Kids was never like something I really had to deal with.
You're lucky.
Well, I have one for Corey. What about the announcement? It hasn't happened, but the announcement of a third movie in the Percy Jackson film series
Associated with the other two that don't exist.
Right. Yeah.
Look, if they did that, Uncle Rick would set fire to the studio because he hates those films more than the fandom does. And what's funny is Disney to be like, oh, to celebrate Rick Owen's birthday, we're putting the movies on Disney Plus. And he goes, why? Why would you ruin my birthday like
That's
this?
not a celebration.
Like, he tweeted that out. He's like, why? Why do you hate me?
Please don't.
That's funny. Yeah, because 4Kids for me is easily one, because like I get that in Japan there are there are things like they can have some more alcohol references and all that, like there's cursing and all that, but like they just, I don't know, 4Kids in the early 2000s like went so overboard with some of their cuts. There's one, I can't remember who the character is, but speaking of One Piece, there's one character that they changed his skin color because, like, I think his name was a little more derogatory, so that's why they did it. But, like, they, like, completely, like, changed, a bunch of different characters. So, yeah, it's...
Well, Luke, you mentioned Sonic X, and I actually, like, a month or so ago, I rewatched the entire Sonic X series, all 3 seasons, because it was leaving Hulu, I think.
Tails loves Cosmo.
And yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, it was not great, but I will say that the easiest ones to get through were all the season 2 episodes when they were based on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and Sonic Battle, Sonic. Is it Battle?
Sonic Battle. The fighting game, yeah.
I hated, and to this day, I will never get over why they pronounced him ML. I know it's a Japanese translation thing because R's and L's, they have the same letter. But, like, if there were English actors and the spelling of the name is Emerald, Emerl, they called him ML. And I was like, his name is Emerald. Why are you all calling him the wrong name? But, yeah, that's something that frustrated me. But I thought overall Sonic was okay, but not great.
I think the biggest, the one that always made me mad was Cosmo at the spoilers for Sonic X if you are wanting to watch it. But Cosmo at the end of the show, she sacrifices herself to save the galaxy. And like Tails in the Japanese version, like shouts that he loves her, and then in the other one he just like, cries. Like, just like, you can let a kid love someone, like you don't have to, like there's things like that always made me mad. But
well, here's the thing: censorship in like making anime more westernized, I guess, or at least broadcasting it to a more Western audience has always been a thing. One of the big grievances that people have with Sailor Moon is there is a lesbian relationship between Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus.
Oh.
And like they're very sweet. They're a very cute couple. But in the original 90s anime, the US was like, no, we can't have that on TV. So they made them
Think
cousins.
of the children.
They made them cousins, which then is like,
God.
okay, they're very, very close cousins.
That's worse.
Yeah, like you can hear Sweet Home Alabama.
George Michael Bluth would be a fan of that.
But so that's always kind of been an issue. And then that also kind of brings in the whole sub versus dub debate, which I guess that's something that irritates me as someone who watches things dubbed because, again, ADHD brain, I can't focus on one thing, like streaming. I always have to be doing something else. And there's actually a very prominent voice actor. He plays Sir Night-Eye in My Hero Academia, the English version, Brian Michaels. And he actually said that a lot of American voice actors study Japanese. They go out of their way to learn the language to make it more authentic. But one of the big things with subbed is there are social Japanese nuances that are in their voice, which will add to the comedy or the seriousness of a situation, which can't always be interpreted by someone who doesn't speak the language fluently, so mostly like non-native speakers. But when you dub it, they can still give those subtle nuances within our own language context so we can understand better what's happening.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because that is always one. I was going to mention it too when we talk about it in your recommendation. I have subtitles on by default on Netflix because Abby and I like it on. And what I noticed was on Black Butler, the subtitles and the English were not matching up. Like it would be the same idea, but it would be like it would be different like translations basically. I was just like, so I turned it off.
That is actually the case for a lot of anime that's dubbed. I've noticed that happens a lot. And I think it has something to do with the fact that it's translated from Japanese, but they changed the script for the audio rather than the script for the subtitles. I think that's
part of that. So I was watching Howl's Moving Castle, and they go into detail what it's like to translate a show or movie from Japanese to English. And one of the big things is they are having to match like the mouth movements of the characters, which is why they'll use a lot of synonyms. But it's so fascinating to me because I also like having this English subtitles on when watching something in dub just to see how accurate is this translation. But for the most part, they're pretty close. I know some of the newer shows like My Hero Academia, Fire Force, they are very spot on. Mm-hmm. Like they are very, very good about that.
Yeah, it always is fun. Yeah, because it always is fun watching dubbed shows because of the mouth movement. It's same in video games, like playing Sonic Adventure and then seeing how their mouths are moving when like it's such a goofy thing. Is there anything nerdy about you that most people don't know already?
No, I feel like I'm pretty open. I think the biggest one is I am a sucker for trash reality TV shows. So like Dance Moms was one of my jams.
So you also are a very big fan of Love is Blind then as well?
Yes. I binged all of that. I binged Tiger King at the beginning of quarantine. I love trash reality TV. It's so much fun.
See, so at least you have something to watch then, since right now with everything that's been going on with the pandemic, so many of our scripted shows have been delayed. So at least you enjoying that means that you will always have something to watch because there's always trash reality shows on.
Oh yeah.
Nice. And then what about what's your most basic opinion about some of your favorite nerdy mediums, like a Star Wars fan who only likes the original trilogy, or like a Walking Dead fan whose favorite character is Daryl? Like what's your like most basic opinion?
Well, Daryl is my favorite on The Walking Dead. But probably I gotta talk about My Hero Academia because that's a big one for me. I really like the three favorite characters, which are Hawks, Aizawa, and Fat Gun. They're three of the favorite top heroes within the show. And so for a little bit of context, Hawks is a guy who has like these bright red wings and he can control all the feathers individually. So he can make them sharp or soft. He can send them to like move things. They can carry weight. Aizawa can turn people's quirks off by looking at them. And then Fat Gum, my baby Johhny, I think you'll like him. He eats a ton of food, gets really, really fat, and then that fat kind of works like Black Panther's suit, where it can absorb kinetic energy, or he can like put people in his fat. So like he can put captured
have that superpower.
So you can put like captured villains in his fat, or he has this thing called Fat Taxi, where he'll put like the students he's in charge of in his belly and start running to get them out of danger. He's great. But the more hits his fat takes, it burns the fat. So he only has like a limited amount of storage.
Oh.
So he's constantly eating, like, keep his fat up.
Interesting.
That's why I'm doing it too. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want it to run out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of my stuff is just pretty basic. I'm a very basic person. Pumpkin spice lattes and all.
I mean, sometimes the more like quote basic opinions are like they're popular for a reason. Just that like there are some where it's like if like they just don't take much thought. Like people who I'm not gonna watch the new Star Wars movies because they're different. Like those ones are dumb. But it's like if you actually like watch them and you have reasons why. Like Daryl is a popular character like for a reason. It's just that like most people who you talk to, like, that is a lot of their favorite characters, even like, and then more casual fans would say the same as well, but like ones who have watched it would be able to give that why.
Yeah.
See, we had a similar but not exact same conversation a few weeks ago. I think there is a difference between liking Daryl, who's popular, and liking a main character of a show. If someone said, like, and Rick is great, don't get me wrong, Rick from Walking Dead is great, but liking Daryl is basic, and that is okay, but liking Mario shows that you have a vanilla personality, and you should not have opinions.
That is very true.
That's valid.
Anybody that says that Mario is their favorite Mario character, get a personality. I mean, hot take.
Hot takes.
But I mean, like you mentioned before too, that is definitely one where there's some of these things that the characters have depth. Mario is just a man who says woohoo and jumps and just wants to hang out with Peach.
Yeah. And she clearly just wants to hang out with Bowser. I mean,
yeah,
you can only get kidnapped so many times before
Mario's not getting the hint.
He's not.
So here's a good one for you. What is something you think that anime has that we don't really see American style cartoons able to replicate as well? Because like there's so many of these animes that are so widely popular. I mean, like a huge reason I think to Avatar's success is that they dipped into the styles of anime with it, where it's not just a traditional American style cartoon. It's like, what are some things you think that anime has that an American cartoon doesn't?
A part of it is the art, aesthetically, and there's a lot of different variations of art style in anime, but I think just the more traditional, like big eyes, very small nose, small mouth, there's just something very aesthetically pleasing about that. And then another thing is they're allowed to go into more darker territories as compared to American cartoons, because in Japan, anime isn't just targeted at children. Like, animated stuff is not just for children, as we see in America, where Avatar was very much directed towards kids. So I think part of that allows older audiences to become more engaged, rather than like looking at a cartoon with a nostalgic purpose. So when you look at things like Death Note, which is definitely not targeted towards children, if you are a child, please do not watch that. But they talk a lot about, for the time period, Japan's criminal justice system and why what Light is doing is such a big deal, and why some people are like, yeah, I'm okay with all these criminals just dropping dead mysteriously. Let's not look too much into it. Whereas then when you look at the musical, because there is a Death Note musical, it becomes more Americanized, and it's more like, oh, anti-corporation. It changes a lot of things. But I think the fact that they're allowed to be a little darker in their themes, a little more mature, it just allows a different audience to kind of take it.
Okay, nice. And then what about speaking on the anime topic? What would a dream anime show look like for you? Like if you were in charge of making one, what would that show look like?
I'd probably go with kind of the My Hero art style just because that's really popular for today's day and age. But I think shonen, so the more action-packed ones, so like My Hero, Soul Eater, Fire Force, I think that's more entertaining than shoujo, which is romance. So like, or on High School Host Club, which Johnny absolutely loves.
Mm.
But I think either doing something more shonen, so the adventure style, or possibly a sports anime. That's kind of been my thing lately. So like Haikyuu, which is volleyball, or Cheer Boys, which is about cheerleading. I think doing something along those lines would be so much fun. I don't know a whole lot about Japanese voice actors, so I couldn't tell you like who I'd want to cast, but I definitely think Zeno Robinson, so the voice of Hawks, would be really fun. Chris Wakehamp, who's also in Fire Force, and J. Michael Tatum, who you guys heard in Black Butler, he was Sebastian.
Okay.
I think those would be some fun voices to work with. And Christina V, I cannot do anything without her. She's one of my favorites of all time. She plays Marinette in Miraculous Ladybug. She is Hawk the Pig in Seven Deadly Sins. And then she's Sailor... Oh, I want to say she's Sailor Mars in Sailor Moon Crystal, which is like the recent reboot of Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Where Neptune and Uranus are allowed to, date and not be weird cousins.
So I didn't, I forgot to ask this earlier, but are you also, since like with anime and manga and like JRPGs kind of go hand in hand with a lot of things, are you also into mangas and into RPGs as well, or is it more just anime?
I've recently started getting more into manga. There's a lot more variety there, but it takes more effort to be engaged with. Whereas, when you watch a TV, that's a very passive interaction compared to reading. But I have been reading pretty much all the My Hero stuff. I'm about to start Blue Exorcist. And I've read a little bit of like the Ruby comics, which is a partnership between DC and Rooster Teeth. And that's not as fun as the show, I think. But yeah, I have been kind of getting more into manga. RPGs, I mean, I'm into D&D and stuff, so definitely into stuff like that. And role-playing games do tend to just be more where I go for video games, just because they're a little more engaging for me. I'm not big into like hack and slash, like Calamity.
Yeah, Johnny, she's saying Hyrule Warriors is trash.
Just like you.
That is true. Awesome. And
I
then
love you, Tony.
So I guess since you kind of answered then too, but you prefer anime more. But are there any of the mangas you've read that you liked better than the anime adaptation, or do you think the anime is typically better? Like which out of the ones you've read both of, are there ones you prefer one or the other, or?
I think Ouran High School Host Club has a better manga than the anime, because the anime ended after...
It would have to.
Johnny's just really biased.
Did Johnny not like your recommendation of that show?
He hated it. The whole cast hated it.
Yeah.
They've never completely trusted me again after that. But the anime ended at a very weird point within the manga, and the manga continues to go on after they've all graduated. And there are just differences that they had to make for the anime because they knew they were going to end soon. So instead of there being one person who's trying to break up Haruhi and Tamaki, there's two. And together, they actually represent Haruhi's biggest fear, which is thunderstorms. Because their names, like, together roughly translate to thunderstorm. So I think that's a really good one. Kind of same with Haikyuu. Like, I love the Haikyuu anime, don't get me wrong. Asahi is volleyball Jesus. But the manga does go farther. And I haven't seen all of the anime. I've only seen what's on Netflix. Crunchyroll actually has up to season 4. I'm waiting for everything to get dubbed. But I think with mangas that are completed, there's always more there than the anime. Because then you get to...
Like, I'm thinking about ones like One Piece is like still going on, and like,
oh yeah,
And Naruto went on for like 15 years, where the anime only went on for like 5 years. So like the Naruto anime ended, and there were still 7 more years of almost 8 more years of Naruto and Shonen Jump.
Yeah, and then that just kind of brings into when the anime catches up to the manga. The manga has like set dates where it comes out, which do not work well with a like running anime series. It's like Full Metal Alchemist ran into that issue, Soul Eater ran into that issue, and that's why you see such a big difference between the very start of the anime when it starts with the manga compared to the very end, because they'll change the ending for the anime, but they won't change it in the manga. So they kind of put like a Game of Thrones, essentially.
Or Scott Pilgrim. Yeah,
yes.
Nice. And then the last one I have, unless Johnny has more questions as well, is then what are your 5 favorite? Give us your top 5 animes all time.
Whew, okay. My Hero Academia, Devil is a Part-Timer, just for nostalgia reasons, or on High School Host Club, Haikyuu, Johnny Hush. And then I feel like my 5th one is like always changing because there's always something new and fun. But for right now, I'm gonna go with Fire Force. I think that's a really good one for right now.
Okay, nice. Johnny, you have any more questions then for Corie?
Why do you like Ouran High School Host Club?
Okay, so Ouran High School Host Club was actually my first anime. When I realized it was anime, because everyone's first anime is always Pokemon Indigo League.
That wasn't mine. Mine was Speed Racer.
But when I kind of learned what anime was, that was through Ouran High School Host Club. So I like it mainly for nostalgia reasons, but it's also really funny because the whole thing is to poke fun of traditional anime. That's why everything's so over the top. That's why there are so many rose petals, Johnny.
See, I can't. Everything in anime is so over the top already. So, like, to say that this one is more over the top, it's just putting more anime in the anime.
Yeah, that's the point. But also, you only watched the first episode. I watched the entire season, so the entire series.
Sorry.
Yeah. But there's a lot of character development. We see that the reason why Tamaki is the way that he is and why he's so annoying, it has to do with his mom, who he's not allowed to see. We see why Kyoya is a complete total dick, and that's for his own personal family reasons. And then the twins, they realize that their relationship with each other is not okay. Like, they realize that there is a big disconnect between them and everyone else, and that's why they'll never find love.
All right, well, then if we don't have any more questions, then we can wrap it up then. So, awesome. Definitely give a lot more insight on anime because, like I said, I don't watch too much. I've watched a handful of... I didn't grow up with watching Pokemon myself, actually. Little fun fact for you. Take my nerd card for that, I guess. But...
Yeah.
But so I didn't watch much Pokemon as a kid, and like Speed Racer was one, but like Speed Racer is a whole different age. Like that was the first like anime that was dubbed for America, but like it was so poorly done. Like that's part of what makes it like so fun is that like it was dubbed in the 60s, so it's really poor. But that's the first one I have, and I have a few others as well. But I'm still like a pretty novice to a lot of the anime stuff. But definitely was nice to get some insight on that from you, Corie. So thank you for that. So now we can continue talking about anime as we move on into recommendations. So Corie recommended Black Butler for us to watch the first 2 episodes of it on Netflix. So Corie, what made you recommend this over another anime or over something else?
So I wanted to keep it in the vein of Halloween and kind of spooky. And what's more slightly terrifying than a small child with a demon butler?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
yeah.
So Johnny, what did you think about this anime, especially compared to the other one?
Well, this was so edgy and pretentious, and I don't know. I almost was accidentally cut by the edginess of this show, and like it was something. It was a ride, and it was a ride that I was on, and I I could not get over how pretentious the boy and the butler both were. It was more the boy, but like just hearing him talk and say everything, I was like, oh, that's what. So we're getting a Joffrey. That's what this is gonna be.
There's a more Joffrey character that comes along in season 2.
Well,
His name's Alois, and he looks like Joffrey actually.
it was okay. I had a few questions. Like, there's that time with that guy. He gets put in the oven, and then he like is seen running away. I thought, like, how did he get out? And I thought they were gonna cook him alive, but then he escapes. Like,
There's a few questions that even the fans still have. Essentially, it's more of he witnessed a fear, so it's more of like a vision where he was like, "Oh man, I got put into the oven," and so he runs away in terror.
okay, so the demon wasn't. So the butler wasn't actually going to cook him alive.
No.
Oh, okay. Because I thought that they were straight up gonna cook him and then eat him, and Butler was gonna serve him to everyone. But then he ran away.
He would never do that. That's not proper for a butler.
Well, he is one hell of a butler.
Oh man, they make that reference so many times. I hate it.
It's kind of, yeah. I enjoyed it. I went in pretty open mind and so yeah, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. It was very edgy, like for the sake of being edgy at times. Like the boy was just would say some like goofy stuff. I mean, I guess I would too if I was like signed a pact with the devil and like lost my parents as well. But
yeah.
Was there any context to that? Because I don't remember it ever really going into that.
Oh, like, about his parents?
About him being a devil in the first place. He just seemed like, unless I missed it, it just seemed like he was a demented. But like I knew he was a demon because you told me. But like outside of the show, I don't know that it says it. At least not in the first 2 episodes. Like
he explains at the end of the second episode that like a little bit there.
Okay. I must have missed it. But.
If I'm remembering correctly, it also talks, like, in the very first episode, because it kind of talks about that CL was held captive for a while.
Okay.
And that he made a deal with a demon. Maybe I'm thinking, like, farther ahead to the anime, because they do kind of go more to length about that.
I figured they would eventually. It was confusing to me because like I knew what was going on, but like there were times when I would forget because it hadn't shown it yet, and I was just like, wow, this butler is like really messed up, and I don't know why he's doing all this stuff.
It was fun. I think one of the ones that made me laugh was in that second episode how he was so concerned about dinner, and so he would be like, he was killing these 2 guys, and he's just like, oh dear, it's already 5:43, it's almost dinner time, and it just like. And his delivery too, where he's just so like stoic and like calm, like always with it, like it definitely is over the top and like not my cup of tea, type of thing. But like it was enjoyable enough for someone who like doesn't watch much anime and like doesn't care for as much of stuff like this. I enjoyed it. Am I gonna go watch more episodes? Probably not. But it definitely was.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd say it definitely was an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah, it's what I call a mid-2000s anime where things were a lot edgier. So that was kind of like the rise of Ouran High School Host Club, Black Butler, Italia, which there's a whole messed up stuff about that. And it's getting a revival. But yeah, so that it definitely has that early 2000s edge feel. That's why a lot of weebs were bullied in high school and middle school, because it was weird. We all know it's weird.
Well, because right around that same time was like peak Naruto, and that was the tail end of the first wave of like One Piece and Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like that. So they were trying to cash in. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Johhny, what would you give it for a rating?
I'm sorry to do this, Corey, but I'm gonna give this 5 out of 10 bullets thrown back at bad guys.
I will give it. I'll give it a 7.5. Of the cook wanting to eat the cake. or the pie I meant out of 10, because man, he wanted to eat that pie.
The staff is the reason you watch. They're great.
The staff was hilarious. Yeah,
Okay, about that, it showed three, other than the butler, there were three characters. There was the young boy,
Four.
but there was the young boy, the girl, and then the bigger guy, and then there was a random old man who only appeared as like a little like chibi character when they would do something big, and like I don't remember ever seeing him.
Okay, so that's Tanaka, and I'll make this very, very quick. So he's supposed to be senile. That's why he's always in like chibi form, because he's just like drinking his tea. But however, there are moments of clarity where he is drawn in the same style, where he gives very sound advice, very Iroh-like. But he was around for CL before the fire burned down. So that's why he's still there, is because CL feels like it's his responsibility to take care of him.
Okay.
Yeah, because you briefly saw him the first time you meet all of them, but then every other time he's there, he just in that super deformed form where he's just like that little tiny. Yeah, they were all funny, like just all the like weird shenanigans they'd get in with everything. Yeah, it looks like Mayrin, or whatever the girl's name is very much in love with Sebastian.
Yes.
She's not the only one.
That was irritating.
But yeah, I know I enjoyed it. You know, because it's not my cup of tea, but I can see where the appeal is. It's very over the top. Like there was a lot of moments like, oh yeah, there's definitely the like the anime like aesthetic to it, with some of the other goofy things they did. But yeah, I thought it was enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys semi-enjoyed it.
You're glad we watched it.
Yes, I'm glad you watched it.
Yes. So now that means it is my turn. So even though technically today is Halloween, so we're gonna be past it by the time this comes out. Mine is Sonic Dreams Collection. So Johhny, so Johnny's heard of this, I guess. So so it is it's a fan-made game that is supposed to be like the whole idea of it is that it's a set of real unfinished Sonic games that were made for the Dreamcast in the late 90s that was supposed to be real, that were found later. So it's a fun one. So it is one that you can play online, you can download online. If your computer can't run it for some reason, then I would just watch some Let's Plays of it. But there are 4 mini games in it. There's Make My Sonic, Eggman Origin, Sonic Movie Maker, and My Roommate Sonic. Which, fun fact, if you actually own a Oculus VR headset, you can play that in VR. So my recommendation is for you guys to play it. Hopefully you can play it. If not, then watch a non-commentary Let's Play of it so you can see it and then discuss it with me next week.
I found the download for it.
Perfect.
Does it have to be non-commentary? Because I was planning on watching the Game Grumps version.
Well, I would do a non-commentary so then you can get the whole experience like you were actually playing it.
Oh, okay.
But you can download it online. I will send you the link so you can do that. So hopefully your computer can run it better than it did for the one game Connor had last week.
Okay.
So Sonic Dreams Collection, it is wonderful. It definitely has been one that I have been wanting to recommend for a bit. So be sure to play that.
All right.
So now we can move on then into our wrap-up part of the episode. So going over our sponsors real fast again. As always, this podcast is sponsored by Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast. Visit anchor.fm to start your own. This podcast is also sponsored by ByLightFixtures.com. Visit ByLightFixtures.com for a trusted source of quality lighting products for your home or business. And, before we also plug the social medias, a reminder to thanks again to Tom for the intro and outro by Taylor Beats. Be sure to check out Taylor Beats on SoundCloud so you can hear more of his great stuff. But also be sure to follow us on social media. Corrie, why don't you let everyone know again where they can find you on social media and where they can find you on the radio as well.
All right. So for radio, you can always go to tunein.com and find us on 106.7 FM KZLX. Or if you just want to watch Nerdmageddon, you can always find us on Facebook Live every Thursday. That's Nerdmageddon. Mageddon. Again, that's live every Thursday from 8 to 10 Central.
She remembered how to spell it this time.
Yes.
It's anybody having trouble. It's easier. The way I remember is Nerdmageddon.
You can also follow me on Instagram at CorrieBug, and on Twitter at Miss_Kitten1067, and on TikTok at Miss_Kitten97. And I also have a podcast that is launching today on Halloween. It's called The Chaos Corner. It's with my friends Ollie and Reed from TikTok. So you can find us on Anchor.
Perfect. You'll have to send me the link for that so I can add that as well so people can find it. And then also be sure to follow us as well on our Facebook and Twitter and Twitch, as well as listen to our podcast. Don't forget that on top of listening on YouTube, thanks to Anchor, you can listen to us on a variety of platforms, including Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and of course Spotify. Be sure to listen on those because we can get some monies for that, and I like money. So, thanks again, Corrie, for joining us on this other episode. You know, it was fun to hear more about your nerdy background and hear more about your love for anime, especially because I know Connor has a few animes that he likes, and Johhny and I's anime experience outside of recommendations is mainly Sonic X, and then Mike is Speed Racer as well. But hey, at least we've watched some solid animes.
Well, you can't forget about Corie in the House.
Oh yes, true. The greatest anime of all time, Corie in the House.
I didn't know they made an anime about me. But thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yes, for sure. So yeah, be sure to go listen. Like she mentioned with Nerdmageddon, that's actually where Johhny and Connor used to be as well, and where we got the idea for a lot of the ideas for this podcast as well. So be sure to support Corie and the rest of the gang over at Nerdmageddon, because it is fun to be able to talk about nerdy stuff like this. And we will see you guys next week.